All right, everyone, we are here with a very, very special guest. We are joined by Jessica Alba. Hi. Welcome to the show, Jessica.
Thank you for having me.
What do your friends call you? Jessica or Jess or Jessie?
Not really Jessie, more Jessica or Jess.
Jessica or Jess.
Or hey you.
Yeah. Or your TikTok name, Yo Mama.
Yo Mama. Yeah. My kids think, they're like, oh my gosh, that's so embarrassing. And I'm like, whatever, it's funny.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Everybody else thinks it's funny.
Yeah.
So.
Did you come up with that?
Yeah. You know, because I'm hilarious.
And your kids are like, so funny, Mom.
They're like, so funny. Why? They're like, are you like everyone's mama? I'm like, maybe.
Maybe.
I'm definitely yours.
Anything is possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the kind of content they want
right.
to see.
The shoe
and
fits.
Take. Right. Exactly. Well, we're so excited to have you here. We're so excited to talk about your new movie.
Yeah, Trigger
Warning. We're so excited. Can you give us just a little background on how this project even started? Because this is like a big major action movie.
Yeah, it's fun because there was certainly a lot of heavy lifting, which I feel like these days with all the AI and the special effects, maybe you don't always see the actors kind of get all up in it in this way. But this was very laborious and taxing on the body. But for me, it was great. I feel like, when I did Dark Angel, which was a TV show I did a long time ago before your time. And it's kind of like, how I started in the business. It was a TV show for James Cameron. And I really was trained by the most incredible stunt team to be a stunt person. And I kind of haven't really flexed that muscle in this way since. So when I came on as an executive producer of this, I got to really have a hand in saying, like, I want her to feel like a woman and, to have this like woman's touch in this movie, but I want it to be grimy and gritty and raw. And so even with the action, you could always, and you will see a lot of guns in these movies, but I was like, what if we do more hand-to-hand combat? What if we do it a little bit different? And it feels more like a throwback kind of action movie. And I think girls and guys want to see someone like kicking butt like this, especially if you feel like connected to the character and you're like, I feel like she would be my friend. Yeah. I feel like she could be a relative.
Right.
And I'd want her to be on my side if I was in this
friend.
You'd want her on your side if you were in a small town and there were like corrupt people doing bad things.
Right.
You'd want someone like Parker to come in and save the day.
Or even just if you're going out on a Saturday night.
Or going out on a Saturday night.
You would like her
and
there
someone's
as well.
giving you some lip.
Exactly. Yep. And especially with a name Parker. I feel like that adds to it too.
Yeah, it's funny because when I was growing up in Hollywood, you asked me, do people call you Jess or Jessica? I actually used to get called just Alba. It was like such a sports. I played sports, and it's like such a kind of sports thing. But I used to always be called Alba. So
right, and and like I'm sure your name is a staple. Right, like Jessica Alba as a whole.
Oh, that's funny.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
I think so for sure. So when we saw this news about the movie, I think everyone was really excited. Parker give us a little background on your character.
Yeah, so she's a special forces commando, active duty. She really followed in the footsteps of her father, and he raised her, and he suddenly dies. And she goes back home to kind of tie up loose ends, and something just in her gut just doesn't feel right. And the sort of like how he passed and like what really happened. So as she's kind of unearthing for her, this like mystery of her father, she really exposes this corrupt arms dealing that's happening in her small town. And there's like this local gang in the small town, and it's connected to this person who's in leadership there and various people in leadership, and she really takes them on her own with the help of a friend. And you get to see her just like kicking ass and taking names. It's so fun.
I love it.
It's amazing.
What was the training like for this movie?
It was a couple of months. I did probably like 2 good months where I had to do like cardio and strength training and like HIIT training and that kind of, you know, just constantly moving, building muscle, just trying to be lean and that. But then also I had to do a lot of knife training because if I'm going to do hand-to-hand combat against like a dude, you know, who's twice my size, what's a little bit more realistic. And I like to have that more kind of realistic where you can believe that she can do it. And so for me, I wanted to learn what I'm cutting and where I'm cutting it. And that to me then felt like it's more realistic that she can take out people much bigger than her. Because if it's just throwing punches, like there's no way, right?
Yeah.
But if she's taking out your Achilles and your kidneys and, you know, your jugular with the knife and she's fast, it doesn't matter what size you are.
Right.
Also, you know all the points.
And she knows all the points.
Exactly.
And now you know all the points too.
I kind of know all the points. Yeah.
When you go into a project like this, do you say to yourself, like, I want to be able to do a majority of everything that's being done?
I wanted to do as much fight choreography as I could. And as many stunts as I could that was safe for me to do. But I had an incredible stunt team, and my double Bethany, she worked out all the choreography. So by the time I got in there, she'd work out all the things that maybe wouldn't have really worked for me. And she knew enough about like my body and how I moved. And she just made me look tough. You know, she was like, okay, so when you finish that move, like put your shoulder in it, you know, for that thing and this thing. And it just, it allowed me to look more believable.
It's amazing to see how all of that comes together because you're like talking about choreography, but when we're watching as an audience, like we see a real fight.
So
it's just amazing to hear the behind the
magic
scenes.
of movie making.
Do you have a certain playlist that you like to listen to during the training, get you in this mood, like in the character?
Like hype mode? I would say during this movie, I listened to Florence and the Machine, Dog Days Are Over. That was a big one. Dance Yourself Clean, which is not by LCD Sound System, which is not a like... I don't know, it's not a hype song in that way, but there's something about the build-up and that like perseverance.
Anything with like good anticipation.
That like the sort of like build-up and then the
big burst.
The big burst of song. But yeah, I listened. And then there was like a Black Keys kind of vibe in Santa Fe, you know, because it was kind of, we wanted to bring in a little bit of a texture of like a Western in the movie and do it in a way that just felt really kind of grounded. Like you feel like this town could exist and these people could exist. So
you are also, like you said, EP. What is the kind of difference you would say in being an actor on a film and solely an actor on a film and an actor on a film and also a producer on the film?
I got to, from the beginning, when I was attached to it, the producers brought the script to me, and they had done Sicario and they'd done John Wick, so I knew they did really elevated, high quality action with good stories and good characters. But a lot of times it's the producers and the writers and the director that bring that out in the script and in the movie. And so I was able to say, like, gosh, I really think we need more of a woman's touch, and I want to really build out these characters, and I want the bad guy not to feel so nameless, faceless, rando bad guy, you know, and making him like her boyfriend, and them having, and really kind of like extending, like, what does that feel like? What does that look like when you're with like an ex-boyfriend, your high school boyfriend, and he, you know, and his family is in this ring, and what does that feel like? What does that look like? What is that dynamic? And so the writer who did The Last Pass is a woman, and then even bringing on a female director and saying like, hey, you don't see a ton of women that do action, like let's do that. And then the DP was also a woman, and the on-set producers were women. A lot of the heads of department were women, and you just have this different flavor when a woman's that woman's lens on what it is to be a badass.
Right.
You don't see me running around in stilettos and a leather dress
Exactly.
kicking
Yes.
ass. You know, I'm not this like stoic person with one-liners.
Right.
You know,
Right.
you
It's a
feel,
female lead with a actual female touch.
Yeah, and I wanted Parker to have like real emotions, and I wanted her to feel like just like a real person who's going through some shit, you know, that day. And it's hard.
Because even if she's taking on the world, like there are so many emotions that go into it. So to have a woman's point of view is so important to like portray that to the audience as well.
Yeah, I didn't want her to feel like it was written for a guy and they just put a woman in the lead, and they just wanted it to be this like stoic, you know, kind of person that you don't feel a connection to. Yeah, I wanted the opposite of that.
I want to go back because, like Rhea said, there is the absolute Jessica Alba name recognition.
Oh,
but
wow.
what is the young Jessica Alba, with teenage years? What gave you that acting bug in the first place?
I think, gosh, I mean, I loved watching movies. I loved where the hopefulness and the fantasy of watching these incredible movies when I was a kid, and just the adventure in your mind, like where it took your imagination. I think people start to really see what's possible, or they get to dream about the future when they watch movies, and they can see themselves in those things. And so I think art does imitate life, and I think, you know, media a lot of times kind of shapes culture. And so I think I've always understood the power of that. It's just the feeling you get when you watch something, or when you connect with the character, and the emotional roller coaster you can go on from being like, yeah, you know, like rooting for someone, to like bawling and be like, I can't believe this happened to her. And so I would say that, mixed with a lot of people in my family are in the arts and have been in the arts, more painters and sculptors and like stage acting.
Yep.
And my grandfather was a classical guitar player, and my grandparents sang and danced my whole life. So anytime we had a family gathering, which was all the time, because I grew up living in one of my grandparents' house, and so we always had family over. We're always like singing and dancing, and my grandpa always had a guitar. And so I think just growing up around people who were emoting all of that, then it wasn't like such a leap for me.
Do you remember your first audition?
Yes. Yep. It was
in a good way or bad
good
way?
memory or bad memory?
It was like a bunch of us girls, and they had to match the hair length and color to a girl who was cast in this Disney movie called Camp Nowhere. And she wasn't really a professional actress, and she was just the girlfriend of the actor that got hired. And they were supposed to be like kissing couple in this camp. And so they were in the background of this camp, like always kind of like in the background kissing. It was like kissing girl number 2.
Right. Yep.
And
that's the breakdown.
That was literally the breakdown. And so it was like 12 or 13 of us, like 12-year-old girls, and my hair matched, and I was like, you know, I think I came with this winning personality, and I was like, you need to hire me because I'm going to be a good time and a team player. And they did, thank God. And for me, it was a real moment because I got to get my SAG card. I got like 3 lines. Other people on the set liked me as well, thank goodness. And I got to get my SAG card, which is, sometimes it can take years for people too. And then they gave my character a name, Gail. She became Gail.
Kissing number 2. Kissing girl number 2
became Gail.
Big step.
Big step, huge.
And
that's how I started. But I remember sitting in this like circle, and they were like, you know, taking pictures of our hair and kind of comparing us.
And you were sitting with the other girls in the room, like it wasn't just a one.
It was us all together, and all I thought about was, I have to make them remember me. I can't let them, I got to make an impression. And I was like, I'm not going to let these people leave. And I didn't know they were like casting directors.
Right.
Yeah.
I just got to make myself memorable. And I remember that going through my brain, and I probably did something to do that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, remember like what you did
I
in
don't
that
remember
moment to be like, I'm going to
exactly.
stand out here.
But I think I definitely said something witty, and I was like, funny or something.
Yeah, it's mostly personality. Do you remember how old you were?
I was 12.
12.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
so then
12.
that's the perfect age to throw a little sass. Like
Yeah,
you're like
right.
a little like
Probably
yeah.
a little
It's like
sassy.
cute. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
For
That's
sure.
like I think that though, and especially in those days, I feel like it was like spunk.
Yeah.
Spunky.
Yes.
I
You're like,
definitely had some
you
yeah.
wanted to be
For
you wanted to
sure.
be spunky to get cast in a Disney movie.
Yeah.
for
Right.
sure.
For sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and like when Fran mentioned, Jessica Alba, and you said, "Oh wow!" Like, do you still have that moment? Like, you're like, "Real?" Like, it was almost like you were like, "Really?" But to us, we're like, "Duh,"
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think it's always a little bit like, cool.
Yeah,
really?
yeah.
All right. Because I'm in my bubble of my life. I don't really see myself outside of myself, and especially your age group, and I don't know. I remember when I was doing the thing a long time ago, it was usually like kids or people of different ages, but I've been out of the game for I feel like the way that I used to be for a bit, and so it's cool. I guess I have been an entrepreneur as well.
Yes.
And so it's cool when when you
Well, there's
ladies
so
know
many
who I
ways
am.
for us to look up to, and we're late 20s, so mid 20s.
I'm inching later. I'm gonna be 27 soon.
Yes. So for us too,
I'll
it's
take
like
late.
yes, absolutely. Those movies, like we remember, love,
Oh, you
absolutely,
do?
but
Okay.
we
Yeah.
also love to look up to the entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
The fact that you were really like, there are so many now, celebrity ran brands and all those things, but you were really at the forefront of doing that and jumping into the health, wellness,
Yep.
baby space, that like products that actually are not terrible for you and
Yeah.
things like
Yeah.
that. So that's like, first, when you go back, we look at all the names now, but we're like, but we still have to remember, like, Jessica Alba paved the way for a lot of that.
And you created Honest based off your own experience,
Yeah.
right? Like that. I think that's incredible
story.
as well. And can you tell us more about that and kind of like the process? I'm sure it was an extremely long process, but like building a business from the ground up based
Yeah.
off of your own experience.
Yeah, I mean, I was 27 and I had my first kid, and I learned about all of these untested, potentially harmful chemicals that are in everything from everything, right? And now people know about it, right? There's videos and you can like look it up, but back then no one knew about this. So I was like, how do I get people to know about it? So I like lobbied on Capitol Hill, and I'm like, maybe we can do an update on chemical reform, on that legislation, and I lobbied for that. And basically, health and wellness unfortunately is politicized, as we know. And they were like, are you a liberal or are you conservative? Because then we'll know how to care about this. And I was like, what does it matter?
Right.
People could be getting poisoned. And it's in everyday things, from like their beauty products, personal care products, detergents, all of it,
Candles,
baby products,
everything.
all of it. Yeah. Air fresheners, all that stuff. This is not great. And there's studies telling us that this is not good for us. Everything from, immune to what it can do to your body, right? When your body is just being kind of assaulted by all of these chemicals all the time. And it's not just one, it's like multiple assaults across your deodorant, your hairspray, your makeup, your detergents, all of it. So then I was frustrated and I was like, well, I got to create a for-profit business, because I feel like capitalism does get attention.
Yep.
And can I embed this kind of nonprofit social issue inside of this for-profit business model and do it a little bit differently? So I was like, what does a modern CPG company look like when you put health and wellness at the center? It's like, that is why we exist. And also, I don't think these other companies are trying to hurt people. I don't think that they are being malicious, but by doing nothing, that's not acceptable. It's not okay. And so I was like, well, I'll show that you can create a great business and people will choose something better for you if they could have that choice. And so, yeah, that whole clean category, that didn't exist before at this scale. And now everything is clean, right?
Yeah. I mean,
because it's different than organic and it's different than vegan.
And clean
and all of
beauty, I
that.
feel like, is such a big thing right now. Like you walk into Sephora and everything, the clean
Isn't it
has the
amazing?
label, everything.
And I remember the early days
Yeah.
when that wasn't even a thing. They didn't have those standards, and Target didn't have those standards back in the day. Ulta didn't have those standards. So we were really kind of at the forefront of helping shape what it looks like to be clean, better for you, health and wellness focused.
Yeah, and
all of
even
that.
like you mentioned, baby products. Like I was just visiting my nephew yesterday, who was born in February, and I mentioned you were coming on our show, and my sister was like, "Oh my gosh, Honest! Luca uses Honest." Like, they were so excited, and I think it's so incredible. Like you said, like being at the forefront of that and kind of leading the charge.
Yeah.
And now it's just a better. Like,
And I launched online, which is like nobody built a business direct to consumer.
Right.
And I, really leveraged social media as my way to communicate this. No one was doing that. Like all celebrities were like social media, like back in the day, they were really kind of snobs about it. And I was like, this is an opportunity where I don't need someone else to tell this story. I'm not going through a magazine or what have you. People get to have a direct relationship with me, and they can hear the story directly, and it just felt more authentic. Like it built a community,
And isn't it so cool too that like, yes, you created this and it has become such a massive company that everyone is aware of, and Honest has its own name recognition too, which I feel like is so cool. Like when it kind of flips and you're like, I started it with and I used my backing to push it,
wild,
and now
right?
it's
When
on
it
its
has
own,
its own thing.
and it's
really
everyone knows it
cool.
on its own.
Yeah.
And to hear your point about social media is so interesting too, because I think you're right. I think there are a lot of actors or actresses that have been a little bit snobby about quote unquote TikTokers or people on Instagram and Reels, and they don't want to use it, and they're kind of like going against it, but at the same time to
Build
evolve
community
and build community, like you said, when you build such a great brand like Honest, and you can hear the feedback too, and then you can only make it better as it goes on with social media and the feedback that you're getting.
And you have that authentic, real relationship with the consumer or your customer or your community, however whatever you are doing. And I was really in the beginning of all that.
Yeah. And you just announced that you're kind of taking a little step back. And kind of switching things around a little bit.
It's sort of like Honest is like my fourth child, and I feel like I'm sending Honest off to college.
Right.
I have an amazing executive team. They are veterans in CPG. They know how to run these big, corporations. Took Honest public in 2021, and I feel like I'm at this new stage in my life where I'm like let it go and live and breathe and become what it can become in its next iteration. I started it 12 years ago, and now it's time for me to kind of figure out what I want to do next and where I want to put my energy. Right now it's entertainment. I love this is like my passion. It's what I loved doing from the beginning, and to get back into telling stories and connecting with people all over the world through telling stories, it's the best feeling ever.
Yeah, and you mentioned entertainment, kind of like a broader scale of things, like producing, I'm sure, acting. Are there other ventures that you're looking at in like the entertainment world?
Well, right now it's producing, and which can go into various mediums. So I have everything from documentaries to scripted to series to movies, really across the board of various things that I'm in development with.
That's
awesome.
so cool. And also just having so many different interests too. I'm sure you can get your hands on so many different things.
Yeah, it's fun, and they're all so different, right? And so it definitely keeps me excited and creative.
Any other genres you want to step into? Because I know the action, action is crazy and you crush it, and we've seen you do action through the years. So having you kind of jump, like having this movie be action, I think is amazing. Is there anything else that maybe you want to touch?
Yeah, I love comedy. Yeah. And I love thrillers. So
Okay.
those two genres are two that I have a couple of things that I'm developing in. Yeah.
That's really exciting.
Very
I mean,
cool.
I think it's so cool. And like I said, we've watched like through the movies, whether it's, you know, Fantastic Four or Good Luck Chuck, or like any of the ones that we love. So when we saw like, oh, Jessica Alba new movie, amazing. We're so excited. I think it's gonna be great. Netflix too. What was that relationship like, kind of working with Netflix? Because everyone
fantastic.
raves about working with Netflix.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't Netflix and chill?
Yeah.
I mean, we all during the pandemic leaned so hard into that game, and I feel like it hasn't gone away. It'll
never go
No,
away.
it will never. It's like, it's such a like amazing thing that you can have such high quality content right there in your home, and or download it and have it on the plane or
Yep.
wherever
exactly.
you need it to go with you.
Just get it on your iPad, get it on your phone.
Yeah, your phone, anything.
Yeah,
It's
yep,
great.
yep.
And so yeah, it's awesome to be on that platform, and for so many people to have access to it so quickly.
Amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Well, we're so excited, and everyone can go and watch Trigger Warning June 21st
Yes.
on Netflix. Like we said, stream it however you want to stream
however
it.
you want.
But make sure you go check it out. Jessica, thank you so
Yes, thank you
much.
so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you for having me.
It was such a pleasure having you. Thank you.